Hi there, this is Stories for Sleep, and I'm Thumani's here to spend a quiet evening with you. A space where nothing needs to get done, where you can let the day go gently. Right now, just lie down as comfortably as you can. Let your hands rest beside you or gently over your belly. No need to adjust anything, just be. Take a slow breath in, hold it softly, then exhale easy and quiet. One more time. Inhale deeply. Feel the air cooling your chest and exhale like you're letting the day slip away. Now bring your attention to your forehead. If you're holding tension, let it go. Let your brow soften. Move down to your shoulders. Feel them sinking into the mattress. Relax your arms, hands, and fingertips. Let them feel light, like they're floating in warm water. Notice your chest and belly gently rising and falling, like a quiet boat rocking on still water. And now, know that there's nothing more you have to do. No one needs you to respond. No one is waiting. This moment is just for you and for a story told softly to help you rest. Whenever you're ready, we'll begin. What if the person who hurt you was the very person sent to awaken you? Hey guys, tonight we're going to start with something small. Not heavy, not serious, just quiet. A soft landing for the heart that's been too awake lately. This is a story about people. The ones who show up, stay for a while, and leave. The ones you couldn't understand back then. The ones who hurt you, or healed you, or both. And especially the ones you still think about when the room goes quiet. They didn't walk into your life by accident. But that might not mean what you think it means. You sure you can survive this without tearing up a little? Don't worry, I'll whisper through the rough parts. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments. Where are you listening from and what time is it where you are? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The air is still. The room is quiet. There's only the soft rustle of your breath and maybe the hum of the night outside. You lie there, body softening with every moment, and your mind drifts just a little toward them. That person, you know who I mean. The one who walked in when you were most fragile, or most hopeful, or just plain lost. They didn't knock. They didn't call ahead. They just appeared, like a stranger sitting beside you on a train that doesn't stop. And even though they're long gone now, maybe even just across town, you still wonder, why did they come into my life at all? Was it love? A lesson? A mistake? Or maybe, was it you who stepped into their life? You see, in Zen, we don't ask if something is right or wrong. We ask, what is it showing me, like a mirror, held just long enough to glimpse your own eyes, like the moon's reflection trembling on a still pond. Sometimes a person enters your life just to tilt the light, so you can see the shape of your own shadow, Other times, they're the storm that finally cracks the shell you were hiding in. The Zen master Joshu once said, "When you meet a person, see them as a mirror. But don't stare too long. You might get caught in your own reflection." That's the danger, isn't it? We hold on too long, replay their words, rewind the last conversation, try to edit it in our heads. But they're not there anymore. Just echoes, like the wind brushing past a chime that's already rung. Tonight, your ritual is simple. Don't try to forget them. Don't try to remember them either. Just notice. That's all. Notice how your chest rises as their name floats through your mind. Notice how your face softens or tightens. You're not trying to feel better. You're just being with whatever is. And slowly, like fog lifting from a lake, the space they occupied becomes light, soft, open. The candle flickers in the temple hall. A monk places a cushion beside his master and sits quietly. He doesn't speak, neither does the master. They just breathe for a full hour. The monk wants to ask, why did she leave? But instead, he watches the dust float in sunlight and lets the question melt. That's the ritual. Not solving, just staying. Just noticing the breath, the ache, the trace of someone who mattered once. You can do that, can't you? Stay here. Stay with the question. Not to answer it, but to let it change shape in your hands. Midway pause just for a second if this story is already making something inside you loosen. Even just a little. You might want to share it with someone who's lying awake too. Not because it has answers, but because it asks the right kind of silence. Now, let your body sink a little deeper into the mattress. Let the thoughts grow fuzzier, like leaves underwater. You're not chasing meaning, you're welcoming mystery. The Zen path begins with not knowing. It begins like this: one breath, one name whispered in the dark, one echo that no longer hurts, and maybe, just maybe, one smile that doesn't need to be seen. The people who entered your life, they were always meant to, but not always meant to stay. That's not tragedy. That's the way of clouds across the moon. And we'll talk more about that in the next part of this journey. The night deepens. The fan hums softly like a lullaby sung by the walls themselves. You're still. Your body's still. But your mind isn't. There's that one question again. It always returns when you least want it to. Like a mosquito in a silent room. Not loud, not biting, just present. Why did they come into my life? Only to leave, you try to brush it off. Roll to the left. Adjust the pillow. Pull the blanket higher. But it's still there. Like an unopened envelope in your chest. No return address, no stamp. Just waiting. You remember the look in their eyes the day they showed up. Or maybe it was the way they smiled, or the silence between two words. Something about them told you, this will matter. And it did. Far more than you expected. But here you are now. No calls, no messages, no reason. Just the ghost of a connection that once felt fated. In a small Zen temple deep in the mountains of Japan, a monk once asked his teacher, "Why did she come into my life at all? Master, if she was just going to leave." The master didn't blink. He slowly picked up a wooden ladle from the temple's water basin, poured a stream of water into a stone bowl, and said, "Nothing." The monk waited and waited. Finally, he asked again, more urgently, "Was it karma? Was it punishment? A lesson?" Still no answer. The only sound was the wind brushing against the rice paper doors and the gentle drip, drip, drip from the ladle now resting on a bamboo mat. Then the master finally spoke, "You're not in pain because she left. You're in pain because you thought she was supposed to stay." Let that sink in. Breathe with it. You're not hurting because it ended. You're hurting because you believed the ending was wrong. But who decides how long someone is meant to walk beside you? You them? Some divine appointment in the sky? Or maybe no one decides. They just walk in when they're needed and walk out when they've done what they came to do. Some come to teach you joy. Some come to teach you loss. And some come to teach you how to sit alone with both. It's okay to miss them. You're not weak for feeling. But you don't have to solve the question tonight. You don't even have to understand it. You just have to hold it softly, like a feather in the palm. Don't grip, don't drop. Just hold. Let's breathe together. Inhale, hold, exhale slowly through your mouth. Again, inhale gently, hold, let go. You're not trying to escape the question. You're letting it unfold, like a flower blooming in the dark. No one sees it, but it still blossoms. You remember a moment, a laugh you shared, the way they reached for your hand in a crowded street, the silence that wasn't awkward, just safe. Those moments were real, and maybe that's all they were ever meant to be. Real, brief, enough. The monk came back the next day. He told his master, "I still don't understand." And the master said, "When the wind passes through the trees, do you ask where it goes next? When the bell rings, do you chase the sound? Let her be the wind. Let her be the sound. Let her go. You lie still now. Maybe that ache is still there, but it's quieter, less sharp. You're not trying to forget her. You're just remembering that forgetting isn't the goal. Peace is. And peace doesn't always come with answers. Sometimes it comes with sleep. If this part of the story is helping you breathe a little easier, feel free to share it with someone who might also be holding a question they can't shake. We all have one, and sometimes it just needs to be heard out loud. Even if the only answer is silence. Your eyelids feel heavier. The bed is warmer. The fan's hum sounds like the sea now. The question hasn't left. But it no longer demands to be solved. It can just float here beside you like a friend staying the night. You don't need to figure it out. You just need to rest. And we'll keep walking this path together when you're ready. for the next step. The next morning, you rise before the sun. You don't really know why. There's no alarm, no meeting. Just that feeling like something inside you has already started walking. You dress quietly, almost reverently, as if each layer is a kind of armor, or maybe a kind of surrender. Today you leave, not dramatically. You don't post about it. You don't slam any doors. You just go out the door, down the street, through the still sleeping city, past the lives that continue spinning. You're not running away, but you're not staying either. And with each step, the space between you and them grows wider. Not just in distance, but in meaning. You board a bus, then a train, then your own 2 feet, through winding hills, through pine forests that smell like memory, through a quiet that feels like prayer, until finally, at the base of a mountain that seems to scrape the sky itself, you stop. There's a path leading up, stone mossy, uneven. No signs, no map, only the sense that this is where you're supposed to be. You don't climb because you're ready. You climb because something inside you says it's time. There's a saying in Zen, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. But sometimes, the teacher is already waiting at the top of the mountain, behind the wind, within the ache in your chest. As you begin the ascent, your breath shortens. The bag on your back feels heavier than it should. It's not just clothes. You're carrying stories, expectations, questions you've asked 100 times without answers. And most of all, you carry the version of yourself that still aches for someone to come back. With each step, a piece of that weight drops. Not because you throw it down, but because the mountain won't let you carry it any further. The path is too narrow, too honest. You must choose the climb or the baggage. Halfway up, you stop to rest. The wind whispers through the bamboo, and the air tastes like rain that hasn't fallen yet. You sit. You breathe. And suddenly it hits you. You're not climbing to escape them. You're climbing to meet yourself without them. For the first time. You remember something odd. A monk once said, "To find peace, you must be willing to disappoint the person you were when you were hurting." You smiled softly. That version of you, the one who begged for answers, for closure, for signs. They did their best. But now you're ready to simply arrive. At the peak, the temple is not what you expected. Not grand, not golden, just stone, moss, and silence. A single bell hangs in the doorway, unrung. A few sandals rest on the steps, and beside the entrance, a pair of eyes, warm, wrinkled, watching you with no surprise at all, as if you were always going to come. You bow, not from formality, but from something deeper, a quiet thank you to the path, to the pain, to yourself. You are not who you were at the base of this mountain, and that's enough. Inside, the master does not speak. He pours you tea, sits across from you, waits, and in that waiting, something inside you begins to settle. You don't ask your question, not yet. For the first time, you don't need to. Not because it's answered, but because your need to ask has softened. That's where the journey always leads. Not to truth, but to stillness. Let's take a breath here. Let your jaw unclench. Let your shoulders fall. Let the silence of the temple wrap around your heart. You made it here. You. Through the ache, through the doubt, through the part of you that thought healing required someone else returning. You arrived alone, but not lonely. And as night falls outside that mountain temple, you realize something so simple, it almost makes you laugh. Maybe they came into your life not to stay, but to set you walking toward this place, this mountain, this tea, this peace, and soon, this sleep. When you're ready, we'll step inside the temple halls together, where the master's teaching doesn't use words. That's for the next part of our journey. The floor inside the temple is warm beneath your feet, worn smooth by generations of footsteps, each one searching, each one carrying a different pain, each one eventually fading into silence. You place your bag down. It makes a soft sound like the end of something. The master is already seated, back straight, hands resting gently in his lap. You can feel it before he speaks, that he has seen this pain before. He has seen you before. Not literally, but the version of you that arrives carrying a question wrapped in longing. You sit across from him, not too close, not too far. He looks at you not with curiosity, but with recognition, as if he already knows the shape of your ache. There's a pause that stretches long enough for your thoughts to rise, spin, and fall quiet again. Then the master speaks. You've come a long way. His voice is soft like wind on a wooden flute. You nod, unsure if you're allowed to speak yet. He raises one hand and points, not at you, not at the door, but at the far wall of the temple, where your shadow falls faintly in the evening light. It stretches long, uneven, distorted. The master asks, "Who is that following you?" You glance at your shadow and then back at him, confused. He waits, not for your answer, but for your noticing. And suddenly you understand. It's not about your ex. It's not about the friend who left, not the lover who ghosted. It's about the version of you who's been chasing their absence. You say quietly, "That's me." Still hoping, still holding on. The master nods, pours you more tea. Steam rises, fragrant, healing. He says you cannot walk forward if your shadow still faces backward. You've brought their echo here, but the mountain has no use for echoes. You want to protest, but I'm not ready to forget. But it meant something. But I still love them. But the master isn't asking you to forget. He's asking you to see. You've been chasing a memory through fog, and every time you reach for it, you lose sight of where you are. He stands slowly, walks to the open doorway. The light hits his robe just right so that his shadow merges with yours. One shape, then two, then none, as the clouds roll over the sun. He says love without clinging is the hardest form of love, but it's the only one that doesn't leave a scar. Let that settle inside you. Love without clinging. That means you can love them and let them go. At the same time, you can miss them and not need them to return. You can remember and still choose peace. It's not easy, but it's possible. And here on this quiet mountain, it begins. The master returns to his seat. He places a single leaf in your hand, not a sacred relic, just a leaf, dry, cracked, beautiful in its own stillness. This is all that remains of spring, he says. It doesn't ask why the tree let it fall. You smile. Something softens in your chest. A knot unravels. You breathe deeper than you have in days. And for the first time, the space they left inside you feels like room. Room for you. A soft chime sounds in the hallway. The sun dips behind the mountain. You close your eyes, not to block out the world, but to sit more fully in it. No more chasing shadows, no more editing the past. Just this moment. Just the sound of tea cooling in a cup, the smell of incense, the whisper of your heartbeat, no longer asking for anyone else's rhythm to match it. If you're still awake, that's okay. The lesson was never meant to knock you out. It was meant to lay you down. To teach your body that safety is here, that you've walked far enough for tonight, that the master's teaching isn't words, it's presence. And presence is always enough. In the next part of our journey, we'll meet a teacup that overflows and realize just how much we carry that we never needed to. But for now, let the light dim. Let your mind float. Let your shadow rest. You are home. The next morning, the temple is wrapped in fog. Thick, silent, soft, like the world is whispering and doesn't want to be heard. You wake before dawn. Your dreams are a blur, not quite about them anymore, but not quite free from them either. There's something different in your chest. Not peace exactly, but space. And in that space, something stirs. Curiosity. The master invites you to tea. No words, just a nod, a gesture to the small room beside the garden. Inside, 2 cushions, a low table, a clay pot that steams without urgency. The master moves slowly, not out of frailty, but because there's nowhere else to be. You sit, back straight, hands still, mind not quite still but trying. You notice a strange anxiety in your chest, like you're waiting for another lesson, or maybe a confession. You want to say something. You want to explain how much they meant to you, how unfair it all was, how you tried everything to make it work. But the master pours tea, and the steam rises like breath from the earth. He hands you a cup, then lifts the pot again and keeps pouring. You panic slightly. The cup is full, brimming, then spilling. Hot tea overflows onto the table. You flinch. The master finally speaks. You are like this cup, he says. so full of your own stories, you cannot take anything new in. You stare at the puddle. It's not just tea. It's the last 3 months of overthinking. It's the conversations you replayed in the shower. It's the what ifs, the why nots, the should have beens. You mutter, I just wanted to understand why it ended. The master wipes the spill gently, then places the empty pot between you. He says, you did not come here for answers. You came here to see. And to see clearly, you must first empty the cup. That lands like a bell. Sharp, true, uncomfortable. You realize you've been trying to fill this space in your heart with analysis, control, closure. But there's no room for clarity in a mind that refuses to let go. The tea wasn't the problem. The cup was too full. You look at the cup again. The stain on the table, the warmth in your palms, the stillness of the moment. And it clicks. You've been so busy trying to make sense of the loss that you haven't let it be a loss. You haven't mourned. You've micromanaged your own heartbreak, trying to turn it into a project instead of a process. The master stands, hands you a towel. Clean it up, he says. You do, slowly, mindfully. Not just the tea, but the metaphor. You wipe away the story you've been clinging to, not to erase it, but to clear the space for what comes next. He pours again, this time just enough. You sim it's warm, bittersweet, and somehow exactly enough. No more, no less. Take a moment here. Let your own breath be the steam from the cup. Let your body soften, like tea leaves unfurling in water. Let the question settle. What have I been too full of to receive what I truly need? You don't have to answer tonight. You just have to ask. That's where peace begins. If this story is helping clear some space in you, a small shelf in the heart, a little more room to breathe, you're welcome to share it. Sometimes someone else is sipping from an overflowing cup too, and they don't even know it yet. Outside, the fog is lifting. The path is visible again. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You're still holding the same questions. But now, there's space for new answers, not from others, from within. And in the next part of this journey, a cat will appear and interrupt everything. But you'll learn from it, because by then, you'll be paying attention differently. You'll be empty enough to receive the lesson. The morning session begins. The master gestures for you and a few others, newcomers, seekers, wanderers, to gather in the main hall. The space is quiet, bare, still scented with the fading trace of incense and wood smoke. Cushions are placed evenly across the floor like lily pads, waiting for frogs that will never leap. You sit, cross-legged, back straight, eyes lowered. You try not to think. You really try. But the mind, as always, doesn't listen. It tiptoes around the silence like a child told to sit still. Then in the center of the room, something shifts. A soft sound. Not the wind, not a cough, a purring. You glance up. A cat, cream-colored, tail curled like a calligraphy stroke, steps light as breath on glass. She walks no glides into the hall as if it were hers, because it is. Without asking permission, she finds a mat, your mat actually, and curls into a perfect circle, eyes closed, unbothered, entirely at home. No one moves, no one dares. Even the master, eyes half-lidded, says nothing. Because in Zen, when a cat sleeps on your mat, during meditation, you do not move the cat. You move your mind. So you sit on the floor beside the cushion that was meant to center you. At first you're annoyed. Your legs ache. Your pride bristles. This was your spot. This was supposed to be your practice. But as minutes stretch into more minutes, your breath starts to follow hers. Slow, even, unconcerned. The cat is not striving, not grasping, not overthinking, not reliving past heartbreaks or constructing future conversations. She's just being. Exactly where she is. Exactly how she is. The master opens his eyes, looks at you, then at the cat, and finally says without irony, "Today, she is more enlightened than all of us." A soft wave of laughter stirs through the room. Not loud, not disruptive, just real. You laugh too, not because it's funny, but because something has cracked open inside you, and light is coming through. Later during tea, you ask the master, "Why didn't we move her?" He sips, then answers, "Because sometimes the lesson comes covered in fur and doesn't care about your expectations. Let that settle. All your plans, your progress, your precision, undone by a nap-happy cat. And instead of frustration, you found gentleness. You found flexibility. You found something softer than control. You found a part of yourself that could yield without collapsing." We often try to make healing look a certain way. Neat, orderly, Instagrammable. But sometimes, healing curls up on your cushion and purrs in the middle of your discomfort and asks you to adjust, to make space, to learn presence instead of performance. That cat didn't know about your heartbreak or your overthinking or your sleepless nights. She just saw a soft surface and decided it was a good place to rest. What if your heart could do the same? Let's breathe together again. Inhale gently. Let your chest rise. Exhale fully. Let your plans fall away. Again. Breathe in. Breathe out. Be here. Like the cat, unafraid, unconcerned, unburdened, even if just for a moment. If this story brought even the tiniest smile to your face, even if it was a tired one, you're welcome to share it. Sometimes someone else needs permission to be displaced from their expectations and find peace anyway. As the sun shifts outside the temple, the cat stretches, yawns, and moves to a warm patch of floor by the window. She doesn't say goodbye. She doesn't need to. That was never the point. She came, she taught, she napped, and that was enough. In the next part of our story, you lose something valuable. It'll slip through your fingers, and instead of panicking, you learn how to laugh. But for now, curl up in your own stillness. No striving, no fixing. Just rest, like the cat on the mat. It happens on your third day at the temple. You wake early, same as always. Fold your blanket. Slip your feet into your sandals. Step outside into the cool mountain air. Everything feels familiar now. The sound of bamboo tapping in the breeze, the low coo of doves in the rafters, the hush in your chest that wasn't there when you arrived. You reach into your pocket, just a reflex really, and feel nothing. Your fingers search again. Left pocket, right. Inside your bag. Still nothing. The coin is gone. The small copper one you've carried for years. The one they gave you. Back when things were simpler, or at least felt that way, it wasn't worth much. But it meant everything. And now, it's gone. You retrace your steps. The path to the bathhouse, the cushion in the meditation hall, the small bench where you watched the cat sunbathe. No coin. Just your breath growing faster, tighter. You feel ridiculous. It's just an object, just metal, just memory pressed into shape. But your eyes are hot. Your hands curl into fists. It's not the coin. It's what it carried. The last piece of them. The proof they existed. Proof you were loved once. You find the master in the garden trimming bonsai with the calm of someone who's never lost a thing. You don't say much. Just, I lost it. He doesn't ask what. Only, and what has been found, you blink. Anger flickers. Then shame. Then silence. He gestures to the bonsai tree in front of him. Small. Carefully shaped. Missing one branch. I once had a perfect tree, he says. Then a storm broke a piece of it. I thought it was ruined. But now, look how it grows. You follow his gaze. The missing branch didn't stop the tree. In fact, it shaped it, made it lean, made it interesting. You sit beside him, hands still shaking. She gave me that coin, you whisper. It was the only thing I had left. The master doesn't look at you. He simply replies, then it's a good thing you lost it. You almost laugh or cry. You're not sure which. Why? He finally turns to you, eyes soft, not unkind. Because now you can carry her in your breath instead of your pocket. Let that settle. You've been carrying them like a token, a relic, as if love must have evidence to be real. But maybe love that leaves no trace is the kind that never wears out. No coin, no photo, no final goodbye. Just the echo in your walk. The way you look up at the sky when it rains. The softness in your voice when you speak their name in memory. That's where they live now. Not in your pocket, but in you. Take a breath. Deeper, slower. Feel the ache of the loss and let it wash over you. You're still here. You haven't vanished. The story didn't end when the coin disappeared. It changed chapters. That's all. The master offers you his teacup. Half full. Warm. Here he says, trade it for the coin. You blink. It's just tea. He smiles. Exactly. In Zen, losing something is often the beginning of seeing something else. A space you didn't know you had. A breath you didn't realize you were holding. A quiet that doesn't ache anymore, just hums. You lost the coin and found yourself without it. That's not nothing. That's everything. If this story helped loosen your grip on something, even just a little, feel free to pass it along. Loss shared is loss softened. The cat watches you from the doorway as if to say, see, I told you, don't carry too much. You smile. You didn't lose the coin today. You let it go. Even if your fingers weren't ready, your heart was. In the next part of our journey, you'll ask a question so raw, so honest, that the master won't say a single word in return. And that silence will say everything. But tonight, just sleep with empty pockets and a lighter heart. You've been following every word, every breath, every slow turn of this story. But right now, let's just be quiet. Just for a moment. Let the stillness wrap around you like warm blankets pulled to your chin. Let it hold what words can't. And now imagine this, a stone temple. Evening light. A single monk sits before his master, desperate. Why can't I forget them? He asks. But the master says, nothing. Not even a breath. Just silence. The monk waits. At first with hope, then confusion, then frustration. He thinks maybe the master didn't hear him. So he repeats louder this time, why can't I forget them? Still the master is quiet. His gaze remains soft, unmoved, but not uncaring. The monk grows restless. He wants a mantra, a teaching, a ritual to banish the ache. He wants answers, steps, solutions, but the master gives him nothing. And so the monk storms off through the garden, down the stone steps, into the night. But the question follows, why can't I forget them? You've asked this too, in your own voice, at your own hour, in your own way. Maybe not out loud, but in the space between blinks, between songs, between I'm fine and I miss them. And like the master, life answers with silence. No explanation, no closure, no last scene where everything suddenly makes sense. Just a quiet you weren't ready for. Until now. The monk returns days later. Dusty, tired, softer. He kneels before the master again. This time he doesn't speak, doesn't ask. He just sits and breathes. And finally, he understands. The master's silence wasn't emptiness. It was space. Space to feel. Space to soften. Space to stop resisting what is. Because sometimes you can't forget them because you were never supposed to. You don't forget the people who helped you see yourself. Even if they broke you, even if they left, you carry them like footprints in wet sand. Eventually the tide smooths them, but they were there. And the path is different because of it. That's not wrong. That's human. That's love. The Master finally speaks. One sentence, quiet as falling snow. Let the memory be. Don't try to fold it. He doesn't mean to hold on, and he doesn't mean to push it away. He means, let it sit beside you, like an old friend you don't talk to anymore, but who helped shape your laugh, and your pain, and your poetry. So tonight, don't try to forget, don't try to move on. Just be here, with the version of you that still remembers, still aches, still loves maybe, not in longing, but in presence. Presence is where the wound stops being the enemy and starts becoming part of the story. If this part of the journey felt familiar, if silence has ever been your companion, know that you're not alone. There are many walking beside you, quietly, softly, without needing to be heard. You are one of them now, and you belong. The monk bows. The Master smiles. The wind moves through the trees, and the question, still there, but gentler, like a paper lantern floating on a dark river, still glowing, but no longer tied to your hands. In the next part of this story, you'll wake up to a new morning, with leaves to sweep and thoughts to clear, and a rhythm that feels more like your own. But for now, let the silence stay with you. Let it cradle the ache. Let it hum you to sleep. Morning comes quietly, not with fanfare, not with urgency, but with the soft insistence of light peeking through paper walls. You rise without alarm. Your body knows the rhythm now, and so does your heart. You no longer wake with the same tightness in your chest. There's still an echo, but it doesn't echo back. It simply drifts. The Master hands you a broom. No words, no instruction, just a wooden handle and a nod toward the courtyard. You take it and begin. At first, it feels pointless. The leaves keep falling even as you sweep. The wind undoes your work as quickly as you begin. But after a few minutes, something unexpected happens. You stop thinking about the leaves as the problem and start watching how they fall. One by one, soft, unapologetic. Some land on stone, some on moss. Some twirl a little as if dancing their final dance. And still you sweep. The Master watches from the temple steps. He sips tea, says nothing. But when you glance his way, he lifts the cup slightly as if in salute. You smile, not out of pride, but because you understand now. This isn't about cleaning, it's about witnessing. Each leaf is a thought, each sweep a breath. Some thoughts you welcome, some you wish would blow away. But the lesson is this: you don't control the fall, you only learn how to clear the path. A memory drifts in, them laughing in the kitchen, reaching across the table, Or maybe just a quiet glance, some moment you've held too long. You let the broom glide gently. Sweep it away. Not as rejection, not as forgetting, just as making room. Another memory arrives, not of them, but of you, sitting alone in a cafe, watching rain on the glass, peaceful, complete. You sweep that too, because even beauty needs space to rest. The Master finally speaks, not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to reach your ears. When a leaf falls, do you try to put it back on the branch? You shake your head. He nods. Then why try to return what was never meant to stay? You keep sweeping. The motion becomes natural, like breath, like forgiveness. Not for them, for yourself. For holding too tightly. For expecting permanence from passing things. For mistaking a season for a lifetime. If you're still awake, feel the rhythm of this practice with me now. Sweep. Breathe. Let go. Again. Sweep. Breathe. Let go. Not because you're ready, but because it's time. There's a Zen phrase carved into a stone near the gate. The leaf does not resist the wind. It falls where it is meant to fall. You read it aloud under your breath, and suddenly every goodbye you've ever whispered feels less like an ending and more like a change in weather. If this story gave you something to hold or something to finally release, share it with someone who's still clinging to the branches. Sometimes, we need to see how others let go before we believe we can too. The courtyard is clear now, but the trees don't care. They'll drop more leaves tomorrow, and you'll sweep again. That's not futility. That's practice. That's life. In the next part of the story, you'll meet a monk who never stops laughing even when the world says he shouldn't. And you'll understand something essential about your pain. But for now, lay your broom down. Lay your thoughts down. Let the leaves fall. Sleep. The sound comes before you see him. A laugh, light, effortless, like a river bubbling over stones. Not loud, not forced, just real. You follow it through the garden path, past the pine trees, still dripping with morning dew, until you find him. A young monk, barefoot, robes slightly crooked, laughing as he's scolded by an elder. You freeze, unsure what's happening. But he's not. He bows, still smiling. He's just been told his tea duty was sloppy, that he forgot to trim the candles, that he left the gate open again. And yet, he laughs. Not in defiance, not to mock, but as if he sees something the rest of us missed. Later during lunch, you sit beside him. He offers you a bowl of rice and says, "They say I smile too much. They think I don't take this seriously." He grins, "But I take peace very seriously." You can't help but smile back. There's something disarming about him, like his presence gives you permission to not try so hard. You ask him, "How do you do that?" "Stay light." He thinks for a moment, taps his chopsticks together like drumsticks. "I used to get hurt easily," he says. Every word felt like a stone. Every person an attack. Until one day my master told me, he leans in playful like he's sharing a secret. People aren't obstacles. They're mirrors. That sticks with you. People as mirrors. Not enemies. Not saviors. Not destiny. Just reflections of what you love, of what you fear, of what you've yet to understand about yourself. He goes on. So when someone enters your life and causes pain, maybe they're not the cause. Maybe they're showing you the part of yourself that hasn't healed yet. He sips soup like he's just said the most ordinary thing in the world. That's why I laugh, he adds. Not because life is easy, but because it keeps showing me. Think about that. All those people who triggered you, confused you, left you. Maybe they weren't villains. Maybe they were flashlights pointing into your shadows. Not to shame you, but to help you see. You remember them. The one you're still carrying in the quiet corners of your mind. What if they weren't here to complete you, but to reflect the part of you that longed to be whole? What if their leaving wasn't cruelty, but a mirror dropping from your hand when you no longer needed it? What if the story was never about them? You ask the monk. One more question. Do you ever wish they hadn't come into your life at all? He laughs again, gentler this time. No, because they showed me where I was, still closed. And now look. He opens his arms, gestures to the sky, the trees, the bowl in his lap. I've never been this open. Let's take a breath right here. Inhale slowly. Draw in the image of the laughing monk. Exhale. Let go of one name, one story, one face that no longer needs to define you. Again, breathe in, breathe out. The monk claps his hands once and a nearby bird flutters into flight. That's enlightenment, he says. Not floating above your pain, just laughing with it sometimes. If this part of the journey lightened something heavy in you, feel free to share it. You never know who's one laugh away from healing. That night, you dream of mirrors. Not the kind that reflect your face, but the kind that reflect your heart. In the dream, they break. And instead of cutting you, they turn into stars. You wake with a strange softness in your chest. Not joy, not sadness, just truth. In the next part of our story, you'll encounter a bell that doesn't ring anymore. And what it teaches you will echo longer than any sound it could have made. But for now, smile even if it's small, even if it trembles. It still counts. You notice it on the fourth evening. A great bronze bell, tall as a doorway, resting under its wooden arch near the southern edge of the temple. It leans ever so slightly, as if bowing to the mountain. It hasn't rung since you arrived. Not once. You assumed it was for special occasions, ceremonies, funerals, awakenings of the grand kind. But when you finally ask the master about it, he simply says, it no longer works, and walks on. That night, as the wind picks up and the clouds roll low, you find yourself drawn to it. The bell stands still, heavy, unmoving. You reach out and touch its surface. It's cool, smooth, worn with age and use. And suddenly you feel a deep ache in your chest. Not because it's broken, but because it's quiet. It's too easy to project yourself into silent things. You sit beside the bell, knees pulled to your chest, and listen to nothing. No chimes, no echo, no lesson wrapped in metaphor. Just the wind, the trees, your own breath slow and heavy in your chest. It's strange how loud your thoughts become when the world decides not to speak back. The next morning, the master finds you there. You haven't slept. You say, it feels sad. Something meant to ring, to wake people up. But now, it just sits here. He nods. So do many people. You look at him. What do you mean? He runs a finger across the side of the bell. Dust gathers. Most people wait to be struck by something to feel alive again. Like this bell. Always waiting for the next strike. But you, he says gently, you don't have to be struck to resonate. Let that settle. How many days, weeks, years have you waited for someone else to reach out? To text first, to come back. To tell you it wasn't your fault. How long have you been sitting silently hoping for a sound that would validate your story? But what if you didn't need to ring? What if you just needed to be still and listen? The master steps back, bows to the bell, not with pity, with respect. Even in silence it teaches, he says, and walks away. You sit with that, no pressure to perform, no need to explain, no sound, just presence. And presence, it turns out, can be louder than noise. Take a deep breath here. In. Let the quiet in your body stretch wide. Out. Let the silence echo through your ribs like a soft ancient bell. Again. Breathe in the stillness. Breathe out the waiting. You are not broken because no one has struck you lately. You are not forgotten just because you are not making noise. You are not empty because you are quiet. If this part of the story whispered something true into your chest, consider sharing it with someone who might also feel like a bell that no longer rings. Sometimes, we just need to sit beside each other in our silence and call that love. That night as you drift to sleep, you dream you are the bell. Heavy, ancient, still. But inside you're humming, low, steady, unshakable, and no one hears it. But it doesn't matter, because you do. In the next part of our journey, you'll enter a night without thoughts, and what you find there may surprise you more than any teaching so far. But tonight, let the silence ring. Let it be enough. Let it be yours. You didn't mean to stay awake, it just happened. Not out of worry, not out of racing thoughts. Actually, there were no thoughts. That was the strange part. Just quiet. Not like the silence of the bell, not like the stillness of meditation. This was different. It was like your mind had packed up and left for the evening without a note, and all that remained was space. You stare at the ceiling, the wooden beams, the faint flicker of candlelight across the wall. And nothing comes. No memories of them, no what-ifs, no aching words you forgot to say. You wait for the usual spiral, but it doesn't arrive. Instead, you listen to the wind, the soft rustle of someone shifting on a mat nearby, the creak of wood as the old temple breathes in its sleep. Everything just is, and for once, so are you. There's a saying in Zen, when nothing is done, nothing is left undone. You never understood it until now, because tonight, without effort, without chasing sleep, without pushing thoughts away, you're simply resting inside the moment, unprotected, unworried, unbound. It's not enlightenment. It's not bliss. It's not even comfort. It's just empty. And somehow that's enough. You remember something. The laughing monk said 2 days ago while tying his sandals. People think healing is loud, crying, screaming, epiphanies. But sometimes it's just not needing to talk to yourself for a few hours. You chuckled then, but now you feel it. This quiet isn't loneliness. It's rest for your mind. The kind that doesn't come from sleep, but from release. The master said nothing all day. You didn't notice until now. No teaching, no metaphor, just presence. And maybe in his own quiet way, he was preparing you for this night. The night of no thoughts. There's no climax to this part. No big lesson. No line you'll tattoo on your ribs later. Just an awareness. You're okay? Not amazing. Not healed. Not broken. Just okay. And that might be the most sacred state of all. Let's breathe together now. Not for insight, not for control, just because you can. Inhale. Feel your ribs expand with stillness. Exhale. Let everything else fall. Again, breathe in this moment. Breathe out the need to change it. You're not in a rush. You're not behind. There is nothing to fix. There is only this. If this story gave you space, even just a few inches of mental room, feel free to share it. Sometimes all someone needs is to know they're allowed to have a night without thought, to not solve, to not strive, to just be. Eventually, your eyes close. Not because you're forcing them, but because nothing is holding them open anymore. And in that moment before sleep, you don't miss them. You don't long. You don't ache. You just exist. And it is good. In the next part of our story, you'll dream of a bamboo forest and meet a version of yourself you didn't know was still waiting. But for now, no thoughts, no past, no future, only breath, only now, only you. The dream begins with wind. Not the cold kind, but soft like a hand brushing your face in slow motion. You're standing on a narrow path. Bamboo stretches tall on both sides, green shafts swaying, whispering things you can't quite understand. It's dusk, or maybe dawn. Time doesn't feel real here. Only rhythm, only breath. The earth beneath your feet is damp, cool, alive. You're barefoot, but it doesn't hurt. It feels like returning. You begin to walk, each step a quiet drumbeat, each breath in sync with the wind. You don't know where you're going, but you also don't need to know. The forest guides you. It parts just enough, leads just enough, and then you see someone kneeling near a stream, hands cupped, drinking from the water like it's holy. He wears simple robes, hair tied, posture relaxed. You approach, but he doesn't look up. Not at first, then slowly he turns, and you freeze because it's you. Not exactly, but undeniably the same eyes, the same jaw, the same feeling in the chest that this is not a stranger. This is the part of you that never left the path. The version untouched by heartbreak, unburdened by stories, unafraid to be still. He smiles, not with surprise, but with welcome, like he's been expecting you. You sit beside him, no words. The bamboo creaks in the breeze. The stream continues its gentle rush. A bird calls once, then falls silent. You wait for him to speak, but he doesn't, because you already know what he would say. Or rather, you know what he wouldn't say. No explanations, no answers, no theories about fate or karma or the people who left. Just this moment, just this forest, just this reunion between who you are and who you could still be. The dream stretches. He hands you a bowl of rice, warm, steaming. You eat together quietly, and in that act, so simple, so real, you feel something shift inside you. You've been waiting for someone to complete you, to come back and make sense of your story. But this version of you, he never left. He was here in the quiet, in the breath, in the stillness. You just needed to stop and return. He finally speaks. Just 3 words. Soft, kind, like the rustle of leaves. You are enough. And then he's gone, not vanished, just blended into the bamboo, like a thought that no longer needs to be held. You wake slowly. The light is soft through the rice paper wall. Your chest feels lighter, not because anything outside has changed, but because something inside has come home. You lie still, letting the dream dissolve like mist, and whisper to no one in particular, I'm still here. Let's breathe now, gently, softly. Inhale the bamboo forest. Exhale the urgency to become someone else. Inhale the memory of your truest self. Exhale the belief that you ever lost them. Again. Inhale. Exhale. You never needed to chase peace. You just had to remember where it lived. If this dream spoke to something inside you, something wordless and old, you're welcome to share it. Sometimes someone needs permission to meet themselves again in the quiet of night. Outside, the real forest stirs. You hear the distant snap of bamboo, the call of a single bird, the wind, not as symbols, not as omens. Just life, just now, just enough. In the next part of this journey, you'll be handed one final riddle, a koan, that can't be solved with thinking. But tonight, don't try to solve anything. Let the dream linger. Let the wind pass. Let yourself sleep reunited. You find the master sitting by the koi pond. It's late afternoon, but the air feels thick with something beyond time. Not urgency, more like invitation. He gestures for you to sit. You do quietly, legs folded, hands resting in your lap. For a while, you both just watch the water. Ripples. A single orange koi surfacing, then vanishing beneath the lily pads. Finally, the master speaks. Slow, measured. Each word placed like a stone on still water. What is your face? Before your parents were born, you blink. He doesn't smile, doesn't elaborate, just waits. This is a koan, not a riddle, not a metaphor, not a logic puzzle. It is a door, one that can't be opened with thinking. You stare at him, unsure if you should answer, but you already know. Any answer would be wrong, or maybe any answer too fast. So instead, you look back at the water. Let the question echo. What is your face before your parents were born? Who were you before the heartbreak? Before the expectations? Before the need to be chosen, or fixed, or remembered? Who were you before names, before roles, before the people who entered and exited your story? Not who are you as in identity, but what remains when the story is stripped away. That's what the koan is asking. Not to explain, but to remember. You sit for a long time. You watch a leaf land on the pond and float without resistance. You notice how the koi doesn't chase anything. It simply turns, glides, disappears. And slowly, the question doesn't feel like pressure anymore. It feels like breath, like space, like a heartbeat you forgot to listen to. You remember your first love, your first grief, your first moment of shame. You remember the night you begged for someone to stay, and the day they didn't. You remember all the versions of yourself who thought they needed to be someone to be worthy. And now, you breathe in. And there's nothing left but presence. And in that peace, the master turns to you, eyes warm. You don't have to answer, he says. You just have to live the question. You nod. Not because you understand, but because something inside you has stopped resisting, not understanding. He adds one last thing. The people who've come and gone, they weren't here to complete you. They were here to return you to the part of you that was never incomplete. That's the answer. Or maybe the non-answer. Either way, you feel it. Not in your brain, but in your chest. A soft pulse. A face not defined by features but by freedom. Let's pause now. Inhale through the nose. Let the question float. Exhale through the mouth. Let the need to solve dissolve. Again. In. Who am I without my story? Out. I don't need to know. I just need to be. If this part of the story found its way past your mind and into your body, into that quiet place where knowing is wordless, you might consider sharing it. Not for answers, but for company. Sometimes that's all a koan really offers, the grace of not being alone with the unanswerable. The master stands, places his hand on your shoulder. Just once, just enough. Then walks away back into the temple. You remain at the pond watching your reflection ripple with the breeze. It doesn't look like anything new, but it feels closer. In the final part of our journey, you will not be given any more questions or answers, just sleep, the kind that comes when nothing is missing. But for now, let the koan sit with you. Let it hum beneath your ribs. You don't have to carry it. You just have to let it walk beside you. The temple is quiet now, quieter than it's ever been. Even the wind outside seems to tiptoe, as if afraid to wake what's finally begun to rest. The candles flicker low. Shadows dance on the old wood beams. You lie on your mat wrapped in a blanket of soft cotton and softer thoughts. But really, you're wrapped in something else entirely. Release. You've walked the path, sat with the master, swept the leaves, lost what couldn't be held, listened to silence, laughed, dreamed, remembered. And tonight, you're not holding on to anything, not even the idea of letting go. The flame beside your bed shivers. Its light plays gently across your face, and for a moment, you remember them, but not with ache. No reaching, no question, just a small warmth like a candle lit in an empty room that no longer feels lonely. You exhale, and the thought floats out of you like incense from a stick, burned all the way down. In the room beside you, the master is also resting, not asleep, but present. You can almost feel his quiet approval, as if to say, you've arrived. Not at enlightenment, not at some dramatic breakthrough, just here, in this body, in this breath, in this now. And as your breath slows, your muscles soften. Your chest rises and falls with rhythm. Only sleep understands. You notice something beautiful. There's no thought trying to steal your attention, no past knocking, no future whispering. Just peace, full, undeniable, undeserved, and yet entirely yours. Let's breathe one last time tonight. Inhale gently. Feel the body melt into the mat beneath you. Exhale slowly. Feel the day slide away like water off stone. Again. In. Soft. Welcoming. Out. Empty. Safe. If this story carried you even one step closer to sleep, or helped you rest your spirit in a way you didn't expect, I hope you'll return and maybe share this journey with someone whose heart still hasn't found the pillow. Outside, the moon hangs low. Clouds drift slowly across the stars. A distant chime rings once not from the old bell, but from the wind passing through its hollow. Even silence sings when the soul is ready to listen. You roll gently to your side, pull the blanket up. Your hand rests by your face. The candle flickers one last time and fades. No one says good night. No one needs to. Because this night, like all the people who ever walked into your life, came exactly when it was supposed to. Not to stay, but to show you something. And now it's shown you enough. So sleep. Not because you're tired, but because you're ready. Because the questions can rest. Because the past has grown quiet. Because nothing is missing anymore. Not tonight, not here, not in you. And so, as this story draws its last breath, let the silence settle. Let your body know it is safe. Let your heart soften like a field after the rain. You have not failed. You have not fallen behind. You've simply been walking and resting and becoming. Like the leaves, like the candle, like the moon. You were never meant to carry it all forever. Let the faces fade. Let the voices blur. Let the footsteps of the people who came and went become part of the path you now walk more gently. They didn't enter your life by chance. They entered because your story needed them and needed to let them go. Now, listen. There's nothing more to do, nothing more to understand, nothing more to fix. Only the soft hum of your own breath cradling you gently into the dark. Let go. Not to forget, but to remember who you were before the world asked you to be anything else. You're already home. If you wish to continue this journey, our next story is waiting. Everything happens for a reason. 3 hours of immersive Buddhist teachings for relaxation and sleep. But only when you're ready. For now, let yourself fall. Fall into stillness. Fall into trust. Fall into the arms of the night. End of script. Sweet dreams.